Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Awesome TCG Discussions here today, coming at you with a top cut breakdown of the core TCG Online Regional Top 16. I wanted to just first do this because I think that it's, sorry, my hair is all floppy. I just got out of the shower. But I wanted to bring this video to you guys as fast as possible. I wanted to talk about this top 16 breakdown because we're seeing a small meta shift on decks that can possibly be considered relevant to play in the format. And I think that that's really good. That's really healthy for the game. It speaks to the health of the game. I won't be talking about placement overall or everything. I just want to talk about mainly the decks that are in it. So we have 1 Mecha Frieza, 3 King Piccolo, 3 Dark Brawly, 3 Sin Shenron, probably aggro. 2 Vegeks, and this is where it gets interesting. 1 Gogeta Xeno, 1 Yellow Baby. I don't even know what leader that is. 1 Red Brawly, and 1 Clash Goku. And I think that we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different decks in top 16, which is insane. If anyone's thinking I can't play a deck, there's decks from here that are typically missing. You got Blue Baby that's missing. Possibly that's just getting aggroed out, especially by decks like Vegeks. And then Soul Striker Goku's obviously missing. OG Brawly's missing. To name a few decks that have been in topping, doing well in recent history, but you don't see them here. Honorable mentions being Android 16, Turles. But I think that's just, Marcel Russell being Marcel Russell more than anything. And let's get into it. So, Mecha Frieza, this deck has actually seen a little bit of a, dropout of top 16 representation. And it's actually, it makes a lot of sense. Why? Because decks like Mecha Frieza and Invoker, which is another deck that's not in this top 16, but decks like Mecha Frieza and Invoker have a very high skill curve to play. You cannot just take life willy-nilly. There are ways to play around your Unite Assemble, which is very, very trying sometimes, I should say, when you play Mecha, because yeah, you have things like Bergamo who can rest their energy, get your U9 fully online the way that you want, but that's not easy to set up. There's some preparatory pieces you'd prefer on the board if you're playing the Aegis engine, for example, like the Bojack. And managing those resources correctly while trying to fend off what your opponent's doing, timing, things like that. A lot can go wrong for a Mecha Frieza player. Easy board removal, for example. If you establish a board and it gets removed, you have to reestablish it. That one requires cards, which you do draw a lot in the deck, admittingly. But, just handling consistent board removal from decks like Dark Brawly, for example, can be a little bit troubling. Although Mecha Frieza does have a lot of good options with the select package to handle draw engines from other decks. Although Dark Brawly primarily draws from its leader, so it does draw, I guess, a little bit off of the Demidraw, which it has some small other draw engines in the deck. But King Piccolo comes to mind in particular, that the slug engine just completely destroys that deck. That card in particular is absurd. And King Piccolo can put the pressure on, but they're not getting any advantage. So the piano's turned off, the unison's turned off, I believe it's Symbol, the one that lets you pump the leader up a marker, put a Demon Clan underneath, draw a card, that's turned off. And so basically, hand advantage for King Piccolo, which is already a deck that struggles with hand advantage, super comboing turned off, it's all turned off, which is really, really detrimental. We're talking, between Piccolo, Piano, Symbol, the super combo, there's at least 16 cards in the deck that are just, we're done with that. So, I think Mecha Frieza actually has a really good King Piccolo matchup if they're playing that engine. But again, it's a sequence thing. If you're not a chess-minded player that can't sequence correctly, Mecha Frieza is going to be a hard deck for you to play. King Piccolo, no surprise here. That deck is actually insane. Mecha might be the only feasible deck that keeps it in check besides Red Brawly, but even then, you have the tools to handle Red Brawly. There's lots of tools for you to be able to handle Red Brawly because, one, you're red, so you have access to Violent Rays. You have Topo that can keep Dark Brawly, decks that go bigger. Violent Rays also keeps Dark Brawly in check as well. So no surprise that King Piccolo has such a high representation. Dark Brawly, three of those. Again, no shocker. In my opinion, best deck of the format, but like it's not like it's unbeatable, and it's not like it's just immediately clear. Sin Shenron to me, man, like if it's not Dark Brawly, it is really hard for me to think that Sin Shenron isn't like the second best deck in the game. Maybe King Piccolo could be too, but Sin Shenron aggro is literally no joke. Anybody who's played against Sin Shenron aggro feels completely and utterly helpless until they say pass. Like, you just don't know what's happening. Like, you don't know if, like, this is all it. If you don't see the proper cards to slow them down early, you're done. Red has the best tools to do it because it has Violent Rays. But even then, they can still put up the 9-drop, which is extremely, extremely good against every deck in the meta. And the Natron Shenron can hit your Unison. So, like, there's lots of things that the deck can still do, even if it's not killing you, which is just absurd. And then Celzino being Celzino, easily playable in the deck. And the thing is with Sin Shenron aggro is it can grind, right? With the 9-drop blocker, with Revenge, it can grind. You can restand with, like, the one guy that, like, restands your blocker, right? So giving it an insane grind game. It honestly is one of the most malleable decks in the format, and no shocker here that it has 3 representations. Next deck to talk about is Vegeks. Okay, I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say that the 2 Vegeks players are just insane. And I assume, since this is a regional, this is also best of 1. But there's something I need to talk about with Vegeks, because a lot of people keep, like, trying to tell me, like, Vegeks is good, Vegeks is good, Vegeks is good. Like, Vegeks is good. But in best of 1, there's insane risk with playing Vegeks. And that is, if you just don't hit your pieces, you don't hit your pieces. Like, if you're drawing your free play cards constantly and you're milling that 1 to 2 of them a game, against certain decks, you just lose. And yeah, you have True Fighting Spirit that can help, like, with counters and stuff. But True Fighting Spirit, like, against, for example, King Piccolo, like, King Piccolo has an insanely good Vegeks matchup. You just blow them out. Like, you actually just blow them out. Like, the drum coming down just kills all your, like, True Fighting Spirits. So their counters, which are mainly played on turn 3, are live. Topo can just insanely kill the deck. Like, all your swings don't mean anything. Yeah, it might be easy for you to aggro them down because you have, like, your, you can aggro them down because you have, like, Overwhelm and all these other, pieces with the Bardock promo and whatnot. However, there's insane risk because if King Piccolo gets the 3 energy, they just have to free play their cards and save their energy to negate you, and you literally cannot do anything about it. Like, if they drop Topo, your turn's done. Because if they have already a drum on board, which is insanely easy to set up, and they bring out another drum, killing one of your cards, and they Topo negate you, they have 2 drums on the board, Vegeks cannot afford to discard the 4 cards. They just can't. So their turn's done. Back to Piccolo. Piccolo, again, doesn't have to charge their energy to play their cards. And they can just charge their energy and don't have to tap their energy to play their cards. So, again, they just blow you out. Dark Brawly, again, same thing. Dark Brawly can grind that deck to the ground. Literally. I've done it. Like, I've been at 1 life, and they cannot finish the game because I'm ripping all their cards out and attacking their Unison and just putting insane pressure on the Unison while ripping their hand advantage. And, again, Protector of the People is just absurd against Vegeks. Vegeks just loses to that card as well. And that's a card that any deck can play. I'm not a fan of Vegeks. I think that this showing either shows a complete lack of awareness of how to play against Vegeks, and shows luck on their part. This is not a deck that I would, like, if I wanted to go to a regionals, Vegeks isn't it, man. It is not consistent enough for me to say, like, any mill strategy that requires you to mill cards in order for your deck to go off, it just seems bad. So I'm like, not going to do it. Now, that brings me to this next deck, Gogeta Xeno. Gogeta Xeno is a little bit different because Gogeta Xeno gets its consistency from warping cards and allows you to play your Union Fusions by, like, cycling to the drop area, so on and so forth. So there's lots of things that Gogeta Xeno can do with its mill of the top 5 that Vegeks can't, because it's not ever expecting to get those resources back. Whereas Vegeks mills so many cards, it expects like you by playing Overwhelm in the deck, you sacrifice your win con. So that's a problem, right? Like that's just a really big problem there. But Gogeta just seems to have some really decent tools. The True Fighting Spirit engine, like Vegeks plays, is in it. But also at the same time, I think that Gogeta is a newer arrived deck, so it's a little bit harder for a person to pick up Gogeta and just sequence correctly with that. It is a high skill sequence deck. Make no mistake about it. Like, you tapping out on the wrong turn against the wrong deck can just easily kill you. It can generate decent advantage with the leader between the Unification and attack draws. Yeah, but other than that, can't speak much to it. Yellow Baby, I don't know what it's playing, but I imagine yellow's yellow. So it has access to an array of good card pool between Bardock, Gramo, U9 engine if it's playing it. I don't know what they opted to play in that deck. I'd be actually interested to see that list. But this looks like, again, anytime you see a rogue leader like this, it's probably an anomaly because you just don't know like what it can do and what it's trying to do. And it may be one of those things like you just show up. Like Android 18. Android 18, I think, won either a Euro Regionals or something like that recently. And I know for a fact that people don't know what that deck does. Like, there's going to be people sitting down, like, trying to read cards, like, oh, what, I'm just getting these tokens and I can attack with them? Like, how does that whole shebang work? And then Rebirth of Justice brings down Frieza and just blows them up and then builds them like 90 cards. So, and then we got Red Brawly. No shocker here that this deck is starting to top and see some presence again. Red Brawly is been one of the solved decks of the format for a while now, but also at the same time, I think that Red Brawly has just such a presence in game one that if you don't see the necessary pieces, you're not playing the right color, like red, for example, or black with, you know, I mean, any deck can run Protector of the People, but like Protector of the People, even then, I'm not even sure that Protector solves all the issues that Red Brawly has. But, you know, there's lots of things that can happen for sure. And you really want to be on the lookout for Red Brawly if you sit down across the table from, because it is extremely aggressive. It warps cards from your hand, which is just an effect that none of those cards needed whatsoever. Like the 6-drop warping, letting them choose 3 cards from your hand and warping them is just stupid. I wish that text had never existed on that card. Their cards, when they swap, ramp unisons. Like, the whole thing is just really stupid. So, and lastly, Clash Goku. No shocker here, because Clash Goku has really good consistency pieces right now. I don't believe Master Roshi's ban is in effect. So that means that there's going to be a good amount of resources like Dormant Potential, Man Transformation, if it's playing it, so on and so forth, that can just rip hand advantage out of your opponent. You got Rebrian, you get so on and so forth. And Clash Goku has some pretty good effects for a leader. So, no surprise to see a green taking this top cut. So, thoughts of it overall, I still don't think Vegeks is good. Like, if I could comment on anything, if you see the Vegeks list and you're like, I need to go play that deck, like, don't believe the hype. Like, this is one of the riskiest decks to be taking to a regional, in my opinion, just because while Vegeks does have its really strong pieces, it's very aggressive playstyle. I watched some deck profiles of the guys who played Vegeks and topped recently with them. And they talked about how one of the biggest mistakes to make with this deck is overwhelming even 1 to 2 cards over the current cost of the overwhelm card you're trying to bring in. So what does that mean? So, like, let's say you swing with Vegeks, you tap, you play your Extinction attack, you mill 4 more cards. There's 9 cards right there in your drop. If you overwhelm in a Bardock after that, actually that's 10, including the Majin Buu Human Extinction attack, with 8 life left, okay, you drew for turn, so you went from, 8, 6, drew for turn 7. There's 15 cards missing, and there's now 10 cards in your drop area. Okay, so that's 26 out of 50. So you're gonna, if you just do the simple math on that one overwhelm, your opponent can only overwhelm 16 more cards, and that's provided that every single card is going to go to the drop area, which it's not. So it's probably more like 5 to 8. Before that can, like, your win con, your recycle con is just gone. Yeah, like, it's very risky. Like, I can't stress this enough. Like, people saying, like, oh, this deck is really, really strong, it's really, really good. It's really, really aggressive if you see the right pieces, and it's also really risky if your opponent can defend. I can't stress that enough. Like Vegeks, for example, if blue gets set up, can't do a dang thing to it. It's just, I mean, it can out aggro blue early, and I think that that's a problem. But there's lots of things that, like, it's just, like, blue can just handle it. Like, if blue plays Heroic Prospects, for example, your free play Vegeta can attack without discarding cards, your bottom decking cards, your the Gohan, just D-Magic, untap energy, beam, do whatever, like, just make the fight, like, make you have to combo to get at the leader. Like, so many things can just go wrong. And I think that, one of the best decks, actually, oddly, against this is SS3. Even though SS3 can get bursted really early, if it can ramp 1 energy, go into turn 3 with 3 energy, and awaken, and untap 3 at the end of the turn, it can make a really serious argument to, like, kind of just blow the deck out of the water. So, yeah. Not a very big fan of Jets, and the Yellow Baby, I'm very interested in. I think that is a very interesting rogue pick for a leader. I would like to know the tech cards, if there's anything other than the standard deviation of, like, basically good yellow stuff that you play in it. Clash Goku makes sense. I think that green has been, like, low-key slept on. Like, blue is obviously the worst color, green being number 2. But, like, green cards are really powerful. Like, I just don't understand why there's not more green. Like, when you have Dormant, Frieza, and Roshi as cards you can play in your deck, it makes no sense that green just doesn't top. Like, I don't know what it's losing to. I mean, I even think that Dredgeku is still good. And obviously, green can be played well because I think a 6, 7, or 8 round tournament was won recently by a OG Brawly. But also, green's expensive. So that may be, like, a gatekeep to the deck that people are playing, is just Charismatic Villain being expensive, Dormant being expensive, the Zamasu card being expensive, and then whatever else you need for your deck strategy could be expensive depending on what you're trying to play. So, some thoughts about the top tier decks that are there. King Piccolo, no surprise. Dark Brawly, no surprise. Sin Shenron, all 3 of these decks just scream, I'm good, get good. Like, Mecha, also, no surprise there that it had a top. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the Core TCG Regional top meta for 16 breakdown. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, just so you can see where my head's at on, like, these meta reports. And I also really think that we have a great opportunity here to dissect our format and just see that these last 4 slots can be good rogue picks. Like, if you know what you're doing with your deck and you can understand how you need to play that deck against certain decks in the format, you can do well. So, I mean, Red Brawler is not rogue, but yeah, Xeno, Yellow Baby, and Clash Goku are. So, that's all for this video. Let me know what you guys think down below. And this is Awesome TCG Discussions signing off. I'll see you guys next time.